Book's out. We're in the 8th chapter, and good news has come upon the Jewish people in the Megillah. Mordechai and Esther's plan worked. Everyone is going to celebrate. Amazingly, a celebration, by the way, which is unique in Jewish history in one very important way we're going to see today. So we're in chapter 8, and we're in verse Tet Zayin, 16, verse 16. So now Mordechai eventually takes off his clothing of mourning. Now the ring has been put on his finger. Yeah. And he goes out, it says, puts on these beautiful royal raiments, clothing. And now when everyone saw this, they realized that the Jewish people had been successful, and they had been successful. Look at verse 16. These are very important words. And let's see who knows when. Are you following with us? You on the computer? Yeah, good girl. That's right. You can tag me on Facebook later. You don't have to do it now. Yeah, don't do it now. And it says the following very famous words. We say this. Actually, you tell me when we say it. La Yehudim hayeta. For the Jews there was Ora. There was light. Simcha. There was happiness. Sason. There was joy. And there was V'yikar. There was honor. So there was light. And there was happiness. And there was joy. And there was honor. Where do we say these words? Not in Kiddush. When do we say these words? Come on. Havdalah. Right, Havdalah. La Yehudim hayeta orim v'simcha sas v'yikar came tielanu. We should have it as well. This is the source for it. This is the source for those words we all say out loud and Havdalah, and we also say it out loud when the Megillah is being read. There's 4 verses we say out loud during the Megillah, and this is one of them. And the reason we say it out loud is because it's so important and so integral that these 4 words have within it the entire redemption of the Jewish people at that time, which is still with us today, and we're going to see right into and after Mashiach, the Messiah, comes and reveals himself. Why do we say that? Because it's so important. There's so much locked. I'm going to show you what they are. There's so much locked in these words that everything that we are as a people is reflected in these 4 words. What is going on over here? Says the Gemara in Megillah very famously, Ora, he, Torah. The light actually means they had Torah. Right? The two related, right? Torah, he, Ora. Simcha, what does Simcha refer to? V'samachta b'chagecha. This is a reference to the Chagim. This is the holidays, the Chagim. These are the holidays. Next we have Sason. Where is Sason related to? Sason is mentioned and related to Brit Milah. Brit Milah, circumcision. I'll explain in a second. Don't worry, just write it down for now, and I shall explain all. And finally, Ve'ikar refers to Tefillin. Tefillin. Right. This is a word that is used. Ikar is mentioned in reference to Tefillin. So actually, this was the joy the Jewish people had at the time of Purim, after redemption, came in 4 forms. Ora, Simcha, Sas, V'ikar. That means light, happiness, joy, and honor. These are code words that were put into the Megillah, and actually, write it down, Rena, listen to me. This actually refers to these 4 things. There was Torah, there was Chagim, there was circumcision, and there was Tefillin. What? That's related to, we put that inside the Chagim over here. That's the Simcha, right? When it comes to Shabbat, right? It's also Simcha, yeah? What is going on over here? What do you mean they had it now? V'hayatalem. Suddenly there was to them these things. Wait a second. We'd always had these things, hadn't we? We'd always had Torah. Torah was given way before. We always had Chagim and Shabbat. We always had joy. So different interpretations. Let's have this. Let's put this down. One interpretation is when the decrees of Haman came into effect, the Jewish people were very scared. And they started in Persia, like they've done actually till even fairly recently in Jewish history, to observe all the mitzvot secretly in their homes, or stop doing them altogether. But mostly they did it in the privacy and the safety of their own homes, so that nobody knew that they were Jewish. Because remember, when the decree of Haman came out, people said, oh, you're a Jew, I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to take all your stuff on the 13th of Adar. So what happened was, now that the redemption came, they were able to come out of hiding from Afela La'ora, from darkness to light, and they were able to study Torah publicly, they were able to keep Chagim Shabbat publicly, they were able to do Brit Milah publicly, and they were able to put on tefillin and go to synagogue and pray publicly as well. So they went from darkness to light. They were able to come out of the darkness, right, that they were entrapped in, and were able to do all these things publicly. The famous question asked by the rabbis is the following. Why does he have to use code words? Why does the Megillah just say, there was Torah, there was Chagim, there was Brit Milah, there was Tefillin? That's the question. Write the question down. It's a very good question. You're telling me they were hidden. Okay, I hear. They could do this mitzvah, now they could. They were free to come out, they were in hiding, they were scared to do it. And the people were able to now do it, so they came out publicly and that was it. So fine, if that's true, then why are we using these weird words, which are connected? There is a connective tissue between them, but just say, the Jewish people came out, right? It was Torah, holidays. Why does he use these words? That's the question that is asked by the rabbis at this point of Megillah. Yes?
How do you say that the Megillah was written while they were still alive?
True. That is true. That's right. Achashverosh was still there. They had to be careful. But this they didn't have to be careful about. I mean, everyone saw what was going on. They were able to come out of hiding. They weren't nervous about it. At this point, they were totally free. So they didn't have to hide the fact they were doing this, and they came out. It had to be something a little bit more deeper than that, yeah.
Isn't that like the entire Megillah? Everything is hidden and in code. Like even
Okay, that's cute. It's just saying the whole Megillah is all about the hidden, the Nistar, Esther, that is now being revealed. So it fits into the general theme. Okay, so just say they were in hiding and they came out. Right? They weren't able to keep mitzvah publicly, and now they could keep it publicly. Why these 4 words? Why are they used instead? Okay, I'll give you what the Sfas Emes says on this. Very beautiful, classic piece of the Sfas Emes when it comes to this. And he says, I'll tell you why. And we'll see later on, I'll give you just another addition, but just hear it now. Write down your notes, and then later on, we'll tie it to some other statement a little bit later. You see, up to this point, they did all these mitzvot, and then they were prevented from doing them. But what happened is the following. They started, it's going to sound strange, they started to enjoy these mitzvot a lot more. And they started to realize that Torah is really light. It's like when something's taken away from you, you appreciate it more. When you're in darkness, not just actual physical darkness, the light means a lot more to you. When you're in spiritual darkness, right, you realize the light. So now they realize, wow, this Torah thing that we were kind of doing for 1,000 years, whatever it was, now it was Ora, wow. And now they were really happy. Now they're understanding how amazing the Chagim were. They were so happy that the Jewish people had survived and got through this incredible ordeal, and it was a big ordeal. They were all going to be wiped out. Then now they really had Ora. So the Torah wasn't just learning Torah, it was light to them. And there really was Simcha. The Chagim meant so much more to them. And the Sason, the joy that came to a Brit Milah, they enjoyed it so much that it wasn't just doing a Brit Milah, it was Sason. You hear? It was a whole new relationship to being Jewish. It changed everything. And of course, they carried tefillin as well. When they put them tefillin, they said, wow, I really feel the redemption. What we're saying is something very, very big over here, which is really important. Okay? There's before Purim, and there's after Purim. And the Jewish people changed as a nation, never to change back ever again. This is such a seminal event in Jewish history. It's so big that you have the Jewish people before and Jewish people afterwards. And we're actually going to compare this to Har Sinai. That's how big the event was, that our relationship to being Jewish up to this point was a certain way, and then it just elevated and was never the same again. I've given an analogy. It's like we talk about pre 9/11, post 9/11. The world's just, for us, the America, it's just not the same, right? Especially the people in New York, it's not the same. Or pre 1948, post 1948, State of Israel. Israel was always there. We always knew it was there. But now we have a different relationship to it. It changed. Our relationship to Israel since 1948 has changed so drastically you can't compare it. But Israel's always been there. We had been there for thousands of years. We always had a relationship to it. That's true. But after 1948, now we have it. It's just different, right? And Yerushalayim, pre-67, after 67, whatever you want to look at it, there's certain events that happen in the world and for the Jewish people, or pre the Holocaust in a bad way, post the Holocaust. Right? The Jewish people are not the same. It's such a big event that it changes everything we are, and history changes because of it. This is a positive version of that. Up to that point, they were doing mitzvah, maybe they were prevented, but at times they'd been. But now things change so much that we're going to see that Purim now starts to become a representation of something much, much bigger. It's not just an event of them trying to kill us. We want, let's eat. Like every Jewish holiday, my wife says, you know, it's not that. Things change so much that this holiday we're going to see has to be kept for Shana v'Shana forever and is never going to go away. And by the way, that's a big thing to say because it's rabbinic. You can say Yom Kippur, right? You can say Rosh Hashanah. These are all in the Torah. But to create a rabbinic holiday that the entire Jewish people keep forever, that's a big, big thing. So something happened over here. Hopefully, with the past 6 classes we've been together, you should have picked up that this event is so big that it's changed the Jewish people. Okay, and that's represented not by the mitzvot, which happens to, but by this. This represents who we are, which is why we use it to take us from Shabbat into Chol. We want that feeling to go with us as well. That's probably why we say these words in Havdalah. Besides the actual light we bring together. Are we clear on this point? Sarah.
Wait, so here's a comment on the redemption piece that you mentioned.
The Mashiach piece?
So, no, I mean that too, but like, I mean that goes in with the whole redemption.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
So these 4 words, you said that it goes with redemption. So like bringing up another holiday, that goes like Pesach. So for Pesach, we say in Shema on the...
It's different. There's the Dal Gala. There's 4 expressions. That's different.
So people say that that's also redemption. Right?
Absolutely. There's the 4 expression of redemption, yes. And there's a 5th one as well.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing, that's this course. We'll be doing that this course.
Okay.
After Purim, we're doing Pesach. We'll go through the 4 and then 5th redemption, and we're going to tie it all together.
And that's
Absolutely.
Also, this is rabbinic, and that one's...
That was
Torah,
Torah.
so
Absolutely, yeah.
you see the differences.
Yeah, and this one is still, to some degree, it's going to sound crazy, greater. Okay, let's keep going. So what happens? So basically, in short, they're celebrating, they're happy, they're joyful.
What do you mean the 3rd redemption?
It's not the 3rd. We're not connected to redemption. We're going to connect to the Har Sinai. Hold on. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Pesach connects to Mashiach. Purim connects to Har Sinai, and then eventually connects to Mashiach as well. Just give me a chance. We're going to build up. I shall show you. Okay? So those are the 4 words that are used to represent 4 things that happened to the Jewish people and how happy we were. And that's what we celebrate on Purim itself. And it says in every Medina wasn't just in Shushan, every single land. Follow very carefully. Verse 17. Everywhere that Achashverosh ruled over, and there's a vast amount of lines, Simcha v'sasan le'udim, all the Jews were happy, not just Shushan. It eventually got out to all the places. Mishteh v'yom tov, it became a happy time. V'rabim me'aretz. Now look at this word. Okay, Shani, I need you over here. Look at this final verse. It says something really weird over here. Most want to pick up on. It says, Mi'ame ha'aretz mityahadim ki nafal pachad haYehudim alehem. Now the other nations, the Jews were very happy. And then the non-Jewish nations, mityahadim. What does mityahadim mean? Put a mem before something. What does that mean? It's...
Like made, or...
no, it's causative. Yeah. It's causative. Make something happen, right? Kona means to acquire. Makna means I'm causing you to acquire.
Becoming Jews.
They became Jewish. Who's this? Who became Jewish?
All the rest of the nation.
Many, many non-Jewish people, because of the fear of the Jewish people at that time, because they want to hide, and this is very common right through history, they converted, some say try to convert to Judaism at that time. Right? When do people try to become Jewish? When we're on a high. right? You don't see people trying to become Jewish, 1943, Germany, Poland. Not too many converts, as far as I know. If they were, they're the real deal. They say many people tried over here to do it. Now, the Midrash says that it was questionable whether they accepted it, their conversion, because they were doing it out of fear, and because the Jews were actually on a high at this point. Just like the days of Shlomo HaMelech, before this, they did not accept converts because the Jews were doing so well. So they were scared. And actually, this is one of the sources that we get dressed up on Purim. Because they became Jewish, started to dress like us and put on all the things as well. Right? So we say, well, we're not so sure about that, and we dress up as well, and that's part of the clothing. They, Mitziadim, they try to become Jewish. Some say they did, and some say they didn't. But it says the reason is key because Nafal Pachad Yudim Alehem, their motivations weren't really so clear at that time. Okay. Now that should be the end, right? But it's not. Why not? So what's happened so far? Mordechai's now been celebrated. Everyone's happy. The Jews are able to live a religious lifestyle externally as well as internally. We've now reached this level of happiness. The decree went out not against the first decree, but in addition to the first decree that the Jewish people are allowed to protect themselves from the decree of Haman, who's also dead. That should be the end of the story. But it's not. We still have 2 more chapters. So what's yet to come? Well, the decree, if you remember, that Mordechai and Esther created was saying that the Jews were allowed to defend themselves. That means there were some people who were still going to attack the Jews. And they did. So what's going to happen to these little battles that were going to happen? Let's have a look at chapter 9. And now it's the 13th day of the 12th month. Remember? 13th of Adar. Okay? 13th day of Adar. And that's the day that Haman chose. And that's the date that was on the first little piece of paper that went around all over the world saying, go and kill the Jews.
So we're a year later now. So
We're a year later, that's right. Now the time came that they were going to take the upper hand, remember, over the Jewish people. What happened? Oh, v'nahafoch. That's a good word. Nahafoch. I'm sorry. Nahafoch. It all turned around, right? What's a kafe hafuch in Israel? Delicious. Upside down coffee. Nahafoch. It all turned around. Nahafoch. This is the whole Purim story. We go from darkness to light. It's all upside down. We dress crazy, right? We do things we don't normally do. We celebrate. We drink. We drink some alcohol. Not you, you're too young, right? But I do. And we drink a little bit of alcohol because when a person drinks, nichanas hayayin, yotza sod. In goes the alcohol, out come all the secrets. It's inverted. Everything is inverted. That's a very important word. Yeah. We'll be celebrating. Nahafoch. Right? All turned around. It all turned around. 1 second. But nahafoch, it turned around quickly. You see, when we try to turn things around, humans, around fight battles, it takes time. But when Hashem does it, Yeshua Hashem, terrifying. When Hashem comes to resolve our situations, it can happen in the blink of an eye, terrifying. And so it happens quickly. Bang, it all turned around. That means they came to attack us, and the Jewish people turned it on them. Now, the Jewish people were not attacking for money. We're going to see they're not going to take the spoils. And they weren't attacking because they hated the people. They were attacked. They attacked in self-defense. But Achashverosh allowed them to do. That was the decree. So they come along, and they do it, and they wanted to hurt us. However, the Jewish people turned it around, right? They wanted to hurt us, and they weren't able to do it. Okay, even so, these battles occurred, and they occurred in 2 locations. Now, this is something I should have mentioned before, but it's okay, we got it now, and it's going to be relevant for another aspect to the holiday of how we celebrate it. There were actually 2 areas that are important in Shushan, okay? Shushan really was concentric circles, okay? You have 2 parts of Shushan, which we're going to see right now. There was Ir Shushan, which was the city of Shushan. Okay? That's Ir Shushan is the city of Shushan. And then you had Shushan Habira, which refers to. So this is Shushan, Ir Shushan.
Is that considering
and then you have, one second, and then you have Shushan HaBira. Shushan HaBira, which I guess you can call the capital of it, right? The capital state. And this is where all the action that we're talking about happened inside there. And this was where the king was. Ahasuerus is here, right? King Ahasuerus is here. And all the stuff happens inside here. So you have two areas. You have Ir Shushan, and then you have this secure, because remember where the king is, that's a secure area with a wall that goes around it, just like you have walls and fences where the president is, yeah, and where the queen is, yeah, and there's castles, that's where the queen goes, and all royalty and positions of power are surrounded. This is not just interesting, this is going to have important halachic implications of when we celebrate Purim, okay, when we celebrate it. So these are two areas. So there was joy in both. However, they came to hurt us, okay? They came to hurt us. And what happened? It says, there were 500 ish. Now, ish in the Torah, ish means man.
Where do you see this?
Ish, I'm jumped ahead to verse 6 and 7. 6 and 7. 6 actually is the main one. Okay? In chapter 9. Okay?
This was the 13th of Adar, right?
Hold on. We're going to get to the dates in a second.
Alright, so
There's ish. Ish came to attack us. Ish is always a word that means a prominent person. The Meraglim were called ish. Ish means a prominent person. Right? Prominent men, not just any men. These were leaders. These were leaders, and they came to attack us. These were leaders who came to attack us. Okay? Now, hold on to that. Hold on to that. We're going to get back to that in a second. Okay? Do not worry. We're going to get back to the second. So we have Ir Shushan and we have Shushan HaBira. Two areas. Okay? One was more centralized, that's what the power was, and it was more protected. And there were Jews in both. There were Jews everywhere. There were Jews in Shushan HaBira, and there were Jews in regular Shushan as well.
they both have walls or just the middle one?
Just the middle one had a main wall around it. At this time, had a main wall around it, in Shushan HaBira. Now we have to get rid of Haman's sons as well. And Haman's sons, we can see, there should be, now in your version you don't have it, but I'm going to show you if you can see over here, in the Megillah as it appears in two columns. The names of the sons of Haman, which there were 10 sons, are actually stacked like this. Okay? Okay? And the other side of the Megillah goes like this. So the Megillah, if you look inside the Megillah at this point, you'll see two columns. One column of names, of which there are 10. 10 names of the 10 sons of Haman. And then you have this other column over here, which is and, the et, written 10 times. Okay? So actually the Megillah splits up at this point into two columns. Into two columns. The writing is a list of the names, and there's a list of the et. That's how the Megillah is designed, and every Megillah you read is always going to come in two columns. Does anyone know where we see something similar to this in the Torah itself?
In Vayosha,
Az Yashir, Shirat HaYam. When the Jewish people went through the water in Shirat HaYam, right, the Song of the Sea, there's also a split, but the split over there is different. There you have two lines like this of words, and then you have in between like this. Okay? And this represents the two walls of water and the Jewish people walking through. Okay? Usually, whenever it does this, it usually will connect it. Here it's unusual. Here we have two freestanding columns. Two freestanding columns. Why is that? Why is that? Why is the Megillah written differently? The design itself, designs of things speak to us. So one answer is because all the 10 people, the 10 men, sons of Haman, were hung on one long pole. And actually, in the Megillah, if you look at verse 9, it says, Vayazata. There's a long vav. In the Megillah, that vav is made big. And that long vav represents the long pole that the 10 sons of Haman were hung on at the same time. They were one above each other.
Oh,
What's his name? No, the last name over there says Vayata, right. The last name over there, it's a long vav, it's made bigger, right? It's Times New Roman 18 as opposed to Times New Roman 12, all the rest of it. Made longer to represent the vav, the long gallows they were all hung. So they were all killed, and they were all killed at the same time. They all died at the same time. How do we remember the fact they were all killed and all killed at the same time? Yeah? We say it in one breath. When the reader of the Korah, when he reads the Megillah, he stops at this point, he does something unbelievable. He reads it all in one breath. Ve'et, parashana, ve'et, dalfan, ve'et, asmata, ve'et, parata, ve'et, dela, ve'et, oriata, ve'et, parasha, ve'et, orisi, ve'et, orisi, ve'et, he reads it in one breath. I'm not a reader of the Megillah, as you can tell, but he reads it all in one breath to signify the one breath that they all died together at the same time. Also, when things are like this, it's secure. Buildings that are built like this are secure. This means that not only will they killed in one go, but eventually one pole, what happens eventually? Amalek, Haman is going to fall eventually. There's no support over here. Here there's support, right? A brick formation like the Kotel, right? It's brick, 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 then brick above it, right? It goes like this, and like this, and like this, and like this, and like this. That stands. This does not stand. Meaning that they were not going to stand at all, and it's one column, and eventually they all died. And look, even these people, by the way, it was always the way in war that when you won the war, you took the spoils of war. Right? You took the buzz, you always took the stuff. Here, they didn't touch it. Here, they did not touch the spoils of war. Why not? What did that come to? It had to come to fix something. Because it's the property of Amalek. And when Shaul HaMelech, right, went to get Amalek, he left the animals, and they took some of the animals and the choice, and they took on their stuff, and he wasn't meant to. And Hashem got very upset with him, and the prophet came and told Shaul HaMelech, why did you do that for him? Because of that, he lost his kingship. So to fix that fight of Amalek, where they took the spoils of war, where they were not meant to take the spoils of war, here in this battle, they defeated Amalek. Amalek comes up again. They didn't take the spoils. And that's why it says specifically on verse 10, V'lo shalchu et yadam. They didn't stretch out their hand in order to take the stuff at all. Okay? Now, the poor people, I'm sure, wanted it. They were poor Jews then. I'm sure they wanted this stuff. However, they didn't take it. How do we reward the poor people for not taking the stuff? The poor Jews who wanted to take it but didn't. They followed the decree that they didn't take it. We have a mitzvah on Purim called Matanot Le'evyonim. There's a special mitzvah to give money to poor people on Purim. And by the way, unlike any other time of the year we're going to see, when someone asks you for money, you don't have to give them. If you want to, you can. You have to give charity. Who you give to is up to you. But on Purim, whoever opens their hand for money, you have to give them tzedakah. You have to give matanot, le'evyonim. Matanot are gifts, le'evyonim, to the poor people. Whoever comes to you and opens their hand and says, please give me tzedakah, you don't have to question, you just give. The rest of the year, you've got to check. Do they really need it? Should I? Do I have to? I don't have to. You don't have to give to everyone. But on Purim, whoever opens their hand, not until you give them. It comes from here. This is one of the places. Also, you want them to be happy on Purim, and they don't have money to eat the Suda, so we give them also for that reason. But this is actually one of the sources for it, because they didn't take the stuff over there, so poor people, they get rewarded, and they get nice stuff on Purim as well.
The poor people what? What did you, can you just repeat what you just said?
I said the poor people have to celebrate on Purim too, so we give them Matnot Le'Avyonim, gifts to the poor people, one of the 4 mitzvot we're doing on Purim itself, which we'll get to soon, it's going to talk about later. But this is also one of the reasons we give money to the poor people, because the poor people didn't take the spoils of war of Amalek, of these 10 sons, and all the other people that came. There were 500 of them who came that we were able to wipe out. Are we clear on this? Yes. They weren't allowed to take. They didn't take, because there was a war many years before against Amalek with Shaul HaMelech, and he kept Agag alive. And the prophet came to him and says, you weren't allowed to take. Can I hear the sheep? You let everything live. We were told to wipe them out. Everything they had, wipe out. Don't take. And they took over. Then he said, well, I was going to bring us the korban. Shalom Melech was a great man. We're going to use it for good. And she said, I said, don't keep it. and because of that he lost his kingship. So now to fix that mistake many years later, in the days of Mordechai, who was his descendant, Ishiyamini, who was a Benjaminite from Shaul, he did not let him do it. Shaul, King Saul, king. Okay, so everything is coming full circle over here.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did King Shaul take Mark or just left the king?
No, people took. People took, yeah. Okay. So, what's going to happen now? So now, the Jewish people were fighting wars because they were coming to attack them. However, getting into here was more difficult. There was extra fighting over here. Okay, there was an extra fighting over here. So listen very carefully. Now we have two separate wars that are happening. We have a war on the 13th that we just spoke about, where there were at least 500-ish and 75,000 people who died during that time. No Jews whatsoever. One of the great miracles of Purim. No Jew lost their life, thank God. So you have the 13th of Adar, right? That's when the war happened, the 13th. That was the original date, remember, of Haman's decree.
When the 500
So they fought on the 13th, and then they rested on the 14th. So when do we celebrate the whole Purim story?
The resting day?
On the resting day, the 14th. And that's where everyone keeps Purim. However, since the people in Shushan Habira had an extra day of fighting, right? Because that's where a lot of the action is taking place. Yeah? Since it's happening a day later, they fought on the 14th and they rested on the 15th. Okay? So now we have the Jews in Shushan Habira, this walled city, is now fighting a day later and celebrating a day later. Okay? It's fighting a day later and celebrating a day later. So now we have two different celebrations that are happening. Okay? We have two different celebrations that are happening for the Jewish people. One second, stop. That's before. Forget the fast. Just on the actual battle itself. Okay, so for all the Jews everywhere, it was 13th battle, 14th celebration. Celebration, we're going to see what it was. Shushan Habira, 14th day was the battle, and the 15th. 13th and 14th was probably battle, and the 15th took an extra day. Said the rabbis.
Wait, can you say again why in Shushan Habira wasn't the 14th?
Seemingly, I think it was like an extra day it took.
So they fought for 2 days
Yeah.
instead of one?
Limit celebration of Shushan, city that would hardly be. Yeah.
But isn't it counterintuitive because in Shushan Habira, like Esther was and Achashverosh was, so why would they attack them if they saw that?
That's the chutzpah. They said it had tremendous chutzpah. And it took even chutzpah because, generally speaking, the Jews who were here were more safe because they were around the center. Here was more dangerous. So here they were attacked first, and here they were attacked later. They even had the chutzpah to break in and come and try to get the Jews inside here. So that battle took a day later. You with me? Are we following? You got to get this point because it's going to get a little complicated, but stick with me. I'll make it very clear.
Can you backtrack like 2 points?
Yeah, absolutely. How far back do you want to go? The party of Achashverosh?
Like beginning of the Megillah. No.
By him, Achashverosh. Okay, fine. So we have two areas. We have Ir Shushan and Shushan Habira.
After that.
After that, we said they came to attack us on the 13th. Okay, so they were fighting on the 13th. While they were fasting, they were fighting.
Who came?
Right? Everywhere. The Amalekites who were spread out, who heard the decree of Haman and wanted to attack the Jews anyway. That's the battle we're talking about. There were 500-ish that did that, and then there were 300. There were 75,000 everywhere, so different groups came to attack us, whatever it was. So they fought on the 13th, and then we won on the 13th, and we celebrated. Couldn't celebrate, so a day later they celebrated the 14th. So now we celebrate on the 14th.
Okay.
That's true for everyone except the Jews in Shushan Habira, this capital state. There was maybe more security. It just happened a day later. So they fought the 13th and 14th, and they rested on the 15th.
Wait, they heard the decree of Haman and then like that he's going to kill the Jews?
That the Jews should be killed. And they came to attack. It just took them a day later to get and penetrate and get to this point. So now, one second. So now what do we have? We have two separate dates. The 14th and the 15th. Right? Or the 30th, the 14th, and the 14th, the 15th. Lindsay, you got me?
Yeah, but I'm just confused because it's a year later, so why are they fighting now for Haman's
Haman's dead, but his decree lived on, we said. Remember that?
Yeah.
So they sent out another decree saying the Jewish people, that was the decree of Mordechai and Esther, they couldn't get rid of that decree. They had to add to it, we said, and say the Jews were allowed to defend themselves.
So it's a yearly thing, the decree?
One second. No, it was a one-off. That year, 30th of the Dar, that was the battle, that was the decree. On that day, you're allowed to go attack, and
so
on that day, the Jews can defend themselves.
He sent it out like a year ago saying...
Yeah,
like,
he's dead.
next
Haman's
year.
dead. His decree lived on.
Oh, got it.
Everyone good on that? We clear on this? Okay. So now we have a challenge. We have two separate dates, and what we create is actually two separate holidays. We have Purim and Shushan Purim. Purim and Shushan. What is Shushan Purim? Shushan Purim is anyone who lives, okay, within a walled city like Shushan. We'll see why they said this, why it was done this way. Real decree is people in Shushan celebrate a day later. So that means next year, the year after, whoever lived in Shushan, which is a walled city, should celebrate, right, a day later. And Kachava, whoever is in Shushan, for the years afterwards, are going to celebrate a day later. Wait, hold on, Rick, I'm getting there. Let me go slowly because it's complicated. I want to get to it. The rabbi said like this. They said, you know what? This is bad. This is embarrassing. To whom or what? Yerushalayim. You see, Yerushalayim was also a walled city. What had happened to it? It was destroyed. It was destroyed when? When Nebuchadnezzar came and destroyed the first temple. You with me? So they were like, okay, fine. You're going to make a decree that all walled cities that are protected should celebrate like this. But how about Yerushalayim? How about Yerushalayim? It's so embarrassed. So they said, you know what? Shushan Purim is going to be celebrated not just by the people who lived in Shushan, the following year we're saying, but any walled city that was a walled city from the time of Yeshua ben Nun, when the Jewish people entered into Israel in the first place. I'll say that again. And it's a little complicated, but I'm going to get it to you. You're going to get this. We have a day later battle. The battle's happened one day later in Shushan Abirah. And we're like, you know what? They should celebrate a day later as well. Who should celebrate? Walled cities, like Shushan. Like, but what are you talking about? The only walled city that was around was Shushan. It's like, I know, because the walls of Jerusalem have been smashed. So we're going to make a decree to the rabbis that any walled city in the entire world that was walled, that had this wall around it, from the time of Joshua, when they entered into Israel, of which Jerusalem was one, and there were other cities as well, we're going to see, we think, are going to celebrate not on the 14th, but on the 15th. So now, Shushan Purim. So you have Purim over here. Purim is going to be celebrated here on the 14th, which is when we celebrate it. But walled cities like Shushan, if you were living in Shushan today, you would have to celebrate later. And Jerusalem and other walled cities that weren't walled when this happened, but were actually originally walled cities, are going to celebrate it a day later. And they celebrate Shushan Purim on the 15th. That means in Jerusalem, to this very day, they don't celebrate on the 14th, they celebrate on the 15th. And that means if you're in Eretz Yisrael to this very day, if you're outside Jerusalem, you celebrate on the 14th, and inside Jerusalem, you celebrate on the 15th. And by the way, it's not the only city. There were a number of other cities that very likely were walled cities from the time of Yeshua, and fit into the walled city Shushan Purim paradigm. Including them are Ashdod, Ashkelon, Beersheba, Bet She'an, which is the Jordan Valley. I actually lived there for a year. Gush Chalav, Hebron, Haifa, Tiberia, Yafa, Lod, Gaza, Akko, Sfat, Ramla, and Shechem, according to the Minhag. Now, they to this day will not celebrate Purim, I don't think, on the 15th, but some will read the Megillah on the 15th. I don't know to this day. The only city we know of today that absolutely keeps Shushan Purim on the 15th is Yerushalayim. We're connecting walled city to walled city. Okay? That's the whole concept of Shushan. Do we get this? Complicated, I know, but do you get it? If you don't, ask me now. Yeah?
You said there was an original walled city during the time of, and then there was the next one you said.
Joshua, Yeshua ben Nun. That's when the Jewish people entered. They didn't want to say walled cities at this time because Yerushalayim had no wall. That's embarrassing for us. They said, you know what? So let's backdate this law. Any city that's got a wall around it from the time of Joshua, when the Jews entered Israel, that is going to be when they celebrate Shushan Purim. That's all. So Jerusalem, in the end, Jerusalem celebrates Purim on the 15th, and the rest of us celebrate it on the 14th. That's all. Okay? Woof. I dread giving that over. We got through it. Thank the good Lord. Okay? Yeah.
So, the year before was when we happened.
On Nissan.
So the day before,
Nissan.
13th.
Right? We're going to get to that, the fast. We're going to get to the fast.
No, this 13th, the fighting day.
Yeah.
That's when they were supposed to die, and then they fought.
That's right. And the day later they rested. The 30th they were going to die, and they fought, and they won, and the 14th they celebrated. Except in Shushan Abira, where it was pushed a day forward. Okay, we're going to keep going. Look at verse 21 in chapter 9. We're finishing this Megillah right now. I'm telling you right now. Yeah. That was where that actually was basically it. It gives you the date. The Jews in Shushan assembled on both the 13th and the 14th, and they gained relief on the 15th. It's all written over there. Make it a day of feasting and gladness. So we see that Shushan celebrates on the 15th. It says it in black and white. Yeah? So we say, you know what? Don't just say Shushan. It's Busha. It's embarrassing for Yerushalayim. We'll give Yerushalayim as well. We're in chapter 9. Now we're going to jump, if you don't mind, okay, to verse 21. And it says, Vet Yom Chamisha Sabo B'chol Shana V'Shana. We celebrate the 4th, 15th, Shana V'Shana. That means every single year. From here they learn out forever. Even after Mashiach comes, when the other holidays will probably become obsolete. No more Pesach, because this Mashiach is going to trump that, we'll see. But the celebration of Purim will always be there. That's what the Gemara, the Yerushalmi says. Chol Shana V'Shana, every single year. This holiday is never going to be abolished. We're always going to have Purim. Something very special about it. And it says again in verse 22, and these days, the Jewish people, nefach, they turned over lahem. They went from Yagon to Simcha, and it was a day of great, great celebration. Let's have a look how we celebrate, because that's mentioned in Megillah as well. And verse 22, it's a Yom Tov, a day of eating, v'simcha, and joy. It's how we celebrate Purim today, whether it's Purim or Shushan Purim. Umishloach manot, and we send, we're in verse 22, and we send mishloach manot, food to friends. How much we have to give, we'll see when we do the halachot of Purim. Next class we'll see, actually in a few classes time. Or matnot li'evyonim, and we give gifts to the poor people. We celebrate. We celebrate. Okay? That's how we celebrate the days of Purim. Okay?
So when is the other
The Kibela Yudim. And the Jews accepted this holiday. Everyone agreed this is a Jewish holiday. And Mordechai and Esther worked very hard to make sure everyone knew about it and that everyone was going to celebrate this holiday because it's rabbinic. It's not in the Torah. So how are you going to make sure everyone does it? Not just like 5 communities. They said they sent out letters, it says. They wrote letters, they sent out, make sure everyone should know this is very important. Turn to verse 27. Okay, so that's the Igeret. They sent out a letter saying that they sent out other letters. All the Jews, now just the Jews receive letters. It's a holiday in the upcoming year. You're going to celebrate, just like you celebrated this year, every single year. So they celebrated the day of, on the 14th or 15th. And then every year, 14th or 15th, they celebrate again and again and again. It became a holiday in perpetuity. Yes?
Just like going back, so we discussed that in Pesach, they killed Pesach, they killed his 10 sons of Haman.
Yes.
Why is it saying that, Esther tells us to kill the 10 sons of Haman and his daughter killed?
Marvelous, marvelous question. That question you just asked me has been, I wasn't going to discuss this because it goes a little bit off topic, has been one of the most famous questions which didn't have an answer for a long, long time. The question was, Achashverosh seemingly hangs these 10 sons. Then afterwards, Esther says, could you please hang the sons of Haman?
Where do you see? Did we
Afterwards, right. Afterwards, it repeats and says, please hang the sons of Haman. I wasn't going to mention it because it's a whole different thing. this question has remained a mystery among the Jewish people for a long time. Seemingly, the 10 sons of Haman are hung. We saw them drawn up, and then everyone says, don't get to hang them. Until 1945. And some people say, if you look at the dates, the different letters that are spelled out in the 10 sons, it comes out to a date, I think 1945, and they say that the 10 people who were hung at that time for the Nuremberg trials actually fits into this paradigm, and they are descendants of Amalek, and that's what people want to say. It's a bit of a stretch, but it's very interesting. And they say that actually means Esther was actually davening that later on, when the descendants of Amalek comes in Germania, in Germany, that they should be hung. And actually she was praying for that eventual hanging of the 10 people, the Nazis who were hung at the time of Germania. That's a drush. True or not true, I can't tell you. On a basic level, it was written out of order, and actually we go back and she says, oh, please make sure that they're hung and their memory shouldn't be with us ever again. That's on a basic level. But some say, no. It's actually a tefillah that Esther did for many years later, that when the descendants of Amalek, the Nazis, turn up, right, in the Nuremberg trials, they should be hung because they were all killed as well over there and hung over there. Interestingly enough. But I don't want to get into it, but that's quite interesting. Jump to verse 27. Oh, we're going to finish this. We're finishing this. Okay, so let me just mention now, next class we'll go into more detail when we go through some of the themes of Purim. So we're going to revisit a lot of the themes that we saw already. But just see the words over here. On verse 27 it says, very interestingly, Kimu v'kiblu hayudim aleihem. The Jewish people, Kimu v'kiblu. Kimu v'kiblu. Yeah.
Wait, where are we?
We are on verse 27 in chapter 9.
It's like Nasser and Shema.
Oh, wow.
You're welcome.
You're on fire. Kimu v'kiblu.
Which is that?
I'll show you right now. Kimu v'kiblu. The Jewish people, Kimu v'kiblu. What does this mean? What does this mean? Mekayem means they
perform and then
they performed it. V'kiblu, and they accepted themselves upon it.
First is the verb and then
Right. So this is Kimu is they fulfilled. V'kiblu, and they accepted. So on the basic level, it just means they accepted that, you know what? We're going to agree with Mordechai and Esther. Their PR campaign was successful, and we're going to keep Purim forever. The Gemara in Shabbat says something very, very interesting. It says, Kimu mashe kiblu kvar. They were Mekayim, they fulfilled that which they already accepted. They were Mekayim, they fulfilled that which they already accepted. What did they already accept? What's the famous Kabbalah? Har Sinai. Har Sinai. Says the Gemara something unbelievable, a very, very famous idea based upon these two words, Kimu v'kiblu. You see, this event, let's go back to what we started this class with. This event was so big for the Jewish people, not only were they happy they were saved, their entire relationship to Judaism changed, which is why Mordechai and Esther was so adamant that this became a national and international Jewish holiday, b'chol shana v'shana, every single year. Okay? Every single year they had to keep this holiday. Why? Because this whole event is Har Sinai Part 2, the sequel. Usually movie sequels are not as good as the original. In this case, it was as great as the original. So now we have bookends. What started at Har Sinai, traveled through history, and actually completed over here. Har Sinai wasn't an event. It was one event that took over 1,000 years to reach its completion. When? At Purim. Why? I'll tell you why. Har Sinai, what was that event like? Was it a happy event? Scary. Thunder and lightning and overwhelming, and they put guns to our heads. Hashem put the mountain over the Jewish people's head and says, you better keep the Torah, or here you're going to die. Sham tieh kuvatchem. You're going to die over there. So you better do it. Did they do it? Yeah. Nasiv and Ishma. They jumped in. That fear aspect had stayed with us right through Jewish history up to this point. At this point, something else happened. It's unbelievable. But at this point, something happened that it changed from the yira, the fear of Har Sinai, the fear of keeping Torah, which is actually a very important thing. It should be, look, I got to keep it because I'm scared of the consequences. But now it changed to what? To accepting the Torah a second time with Ora Simcha Sosavikar. Now, our whole nation of Judaism in totality changed, and we were happy about it. And it moved from Yira to Ahava, to love. We started to keep Judaism differently. We felt different about it. Again, it's like visiting the Kotel before 1967 and then post 1967. Oh, I just feel a different relation. Now it's ours. I can enjoy it more. It just changed. It was so big, this change, that the rabbis, the Gemara says, it's actually Har Sinai Part 2. It's the end of what started over there. It becomes bookends that completes that. It was fear. And by the way, a lot of good stuff happened in between. But it was fearful up to that point. And now it was, I love being Jewish. Right? I'm enjoying this so much. Look at the redemption that happened. It took the Purim story to make us really happy and to appreciate it. We're going to come back to that again. I wanted to mention so you see it inside. And that's why it says in verse 28, Lo yavru mitoch Yehudim. It never went away. They kept this holiday forever because they felt so connected to it. And that's why all the Jewish people this very day will do it. Right? And they sent out the letters. It says, L'kaim et Igeret, which Mordechai and Esther sent out the letters in the chapter, V'yishlach Sfarim et kol Yehudim. And they sent out these letters to everyone. And they said, just like, although it's rabbinic, it's a big, big deal to make them do this. Right? So every Jew should keep a rabbinic holiday. They accepted it. And they were going to do it later by Hanukkah again. So when we get to Hanukkah next semester, we'll see how Hanukkah also is a completion of something else. But Purim is the biggest one. Right? It's the biggest rabbinic holiday. Right? That everyone should do mitzvah. Now, we're allowed to do malacha on Purim and Hanukkah because only the Torah has the power to forbid malacha. But the rabbis can add mitzvot. And they did over here. And we're going to see there's 4 mitzvot they did. Let's finish it off. Right? And at the end of chapter 9, in verse 31, at the end it says, Divrei Tzomat Zakatam. Right? We see that they were able to even keep the fast going. That's Tanit Esther, which we keep to this very day. Okay, 3rd to the 14th. Come that later on. And V'mamar Esther Kiyem Divrei Purim Ha'elev V'nichtav B'Sefer. And they wrote it into the book. Not only did they create a new holiday, they created a new book of Tanakh. There's a Megillah called Megillat Esther.
What's Sefer though?
That's the Sefer.
Oh, okay.
Right? In Ketuvim. They even wrote this all down and they made it. And we read out one of the mitzvot of Purim to read out this book. They were able to create, these 2 people, Mordechai and Esther, were able to create a new book called Megillat Esther, which we keep to this very day. That's wild, right? Write a whole new book. Right? This late in Jewish history, it's unbelievable that this should happen. Verse 10 is chapter 10 is very, very short. So now, V'yasam melech Achashverosh mas ala aretz. He created a tax, right? So he gets his cut, his share. He's happy now. He puts a mas. Mas means tax. But what's the numerical value of mas?
50 and some.
100. Right? 14, 60, 100. And on the mainland, and EAAM, the EA is 27. Right? So we now 127 provinces. Mas and EAAM. Mas are the taxes.
You read some of the what are you talking about? There's like so many things happening.
Stop. He puts mas are taxes. He taxed the people. Now the word mas means taxes. Achashverosh. Right? He's got all these people now, everyone's doing well, and he puts extra taxes. He starts to build up his coffers now. The Jews are there, they're happy, they're staying. Right? But mas has a numerical value of 100. So he puts mas on the mainland, and also the Iye Hayam means the islands, because he had islands as well. So he puts a mas on the mainland and the islands. Iye Hayam, the Iye Hayam comes to 27. Added together 127. So he still had control over 127 provinces, mas, the Iyayam, even after the story, and he taxes them all. He gets his share, right? Let's finish off. So we can say we finished it.
Why do you care? Together is 27?
Why is that important? That's a good question. To show that even afterwards, Achashverosh still had power, right?
No, but I feel like we can end it in chapter 9, like.
That would have been a good ending, yeah?
Any taxes?
Well, except mas is a tax.
Well, the book was written in the Hashverosh time.
The written was written afterwards, at this time. Yeah. Okay? Ki Mordechai Yudi Mishneh LeMelech Achashverosh. He's now great. His power goes up. The Jewish people were in ascendancy at this time. V'rov echav, and most of the people, Dorish Tov Li'amah v'Dorish Shalom L'chol Hazara, were very happy about this event. Most of the people, not all the people. Most of the people.
Wait, what? Can you repeat that?
Like people living the
He was like second to the king. He was like a main viceroy to King Achashverosh. Right, Mishnah has to repeat. He went up to that level, although it ends up with Mordechai going right up and being considered very important. The kingdom, everyone knew about it. The Jews felt good, and it shows the celebration because everyone knew Mordechai and Esther was successful in their mission to save the Jewish people, and the kingdom was still very, very great. Some of the Sanhedrin were not so happy. It's going to sound a little weird. V'rov echav, says Rashi. Some of the rabbis at the time felt that Mordechai had lost a little bit of status because he had to leave Torah in order to save the Jewish people. So in some people's eyes, he went down. This happens. Okay, but he had to do what he did, and he was successful, and he reached a high point in Persian society of Achashverosh, and all's well, as Shakespeare said, that ends well. It's unusual. It's unusual. Yeah.
Okay, I have two questions and they both have to do with this.
Yeah.
So my first question is, you said that the Jews were happy. So does that influence the Jews coming back in the second Beit HaMikdash? Like they didn't want to leave Persia.
That's a great question. We see that when the second temple was rebuilt and Ezra got involved in it all, and Darius had to do it, they didn't all go back. Woo! That is true. What percent went back? Less than 50% actually went back to Yisrael. Okay.
Okay, second question.
Okay, good, fair point. Yeah, next.
My second question is, so I was thinking, so is Purim close to Pesach because it's the time of redemption?
Very good. Oh, that's an important point. I didn't mention it. We've celebrated in Adar, when there's two Adars in a leap year, Shana Mu Beret, we do Adar Sheni. Purim always falls in Adar Sheni because Purim has to be right before Pesach. We go from Geula, with Mismach, Geula LeGeula, redemption, right? So we attach, so that's why when there's two Adars, we always put Purim in Adar Sheni to connect the redemption of Purim to the redemption of Pesach. That's true? That is true. Could be. Okay, marvelous. We finished the Megillah. Next class we'll go to some of the themes and then we'll move on to Pesach. B'ezrat Hashem. Have a great day.